You're petting your cat, they're purring, everything feels perfect, and then suddenly they bite you. Not hard enough to injure you, just enough to make you pull your hand back and think, wait, what just happened? Because here's the part most people get wrong. Purring doesn't always mean your cat is happy. In fact, sometimes that soft, comforting sound is actually a warning, or even a sign your cat is already overwhelmed. So if your cat has ever gone from affectionate to aggressive in seconds, you're not being rejected. You're just missing what your cat was trying to tell you the whole time. 1. Purring doesn't always mean, I'm happy. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding. Your cat is purring, so you assume everything is good. They're relaxed. They're enjoying it. They want more. But here's the truth. Purring is not just a happiness signal. It's actually a self-regulation mechanism. Cats purr when they're content, yes, but also when they're anxious, overstimulated, or even in pain. Think of it less like a smile and more like a coping tool. So when you're petting your cat and they start purring, what you're really seeing is this. Your cat is processing sensation in real time. At first, it feels good. The strokes are predictable, the pressure is right, the rhythm is calming, but as you keep going, something subtle begins to shift. Their nervous system starts to overload. The same touch that felt good 10 seconds ago now feels like too much. But your cat doesn't just stop you immediately. They don't have words. They escalate in signals. The purring continues, but now it's different. Tighter, faster, less relaxed. Their tail might flick. Their ears might rotate slightly. Their body stiffens just a little. And if you miss those micro signals, the bite becomes the final message. Not aggression, not betrayal, just, that was enough. And this is where most people lose trust with their cat, because they only notice the bite, not the build-up. If you've ever thought, my cat bites me out of nowhere, type 1" the comments, because once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. And if you want to start reading your cat like this before it turns into a bite, make sure you're subscribed, because the next signs are even easier to miss, and even more important, 2. The belly trap isn't a trap, it's a test. Your cat rolls over, exposes their belly, looks completely relaxed, and instinctively you reach in to pet it, because to us that's an invitation, right? In human terms, showing your belly means comfort, safety, trust, but in cat psychology it means something very different. The belly is your cat's most vulnerable area. When they expose it, they're not asking to be touched. They're showing you they feel safe enough not to defend themselves. It's a statement of trust, not a request for interaction. So when your hand moves in, your cat suddenly has to make a split-second decision. Is this still safe? Or do I need to protect myself? At first, they hesitate. They might tolerate a second, maybe 2, but then instinct kicks in. The back legs engage, the front paws grab, and the bite follows fast, controlled, and very intentional. Not because your cat tricked you, but because the situation crossed a boundary. And here's the key insight. Your cat didn't change their mood. You changed the context. What was safe became unpredictable. And once that line is crossed, your cat responds the only way their instincts allow. So the next time your cat shows their belly, pause. Instead of touching, try something different. Slow blink, soft voice, or just let them stay in that vulnerable state without interference. Because sometimes the deepest form of trust is knowing when not to touch. And this brings us to something even more subtle, because even when you're petting the right areas, your cat can still bite. Let's look at why that happens next. 3. The good spot myth, why even the right touch can go wrong. You've probably heard this before. Just pet your cat in the right spots and they won't bite. The head, the chin, the base of the tail. These are supposed to be the safe zones. And yes, those areas are generally more tolerated. But here's what most people miss. It's not just where you touch, it's how long you stay there. Because even in the good spots, your cat has a limit. At first, everything feels perfect. They lean into your hand, they rub against you, they might even guide your fingers exactly where they want the contact. But then subtle shifts begin. The leaning stops, the body becomes still, the tail gives a sharper flick, and this is the critical moment. Most people don't stop here, because nothing bad has happened yet. So they keep petting, just a little longer. And that's when the experience flips. What felt good becomes repetitive. What was soothing becomes irritating. What was bonding becomes overstimulation. And your cat doesn't gradually pull away like a human would. They escalate. From stillness, to tension, to a quick, controlled bite. Not to hurt you, but to end the interaction immediately. So the real skill isn't finding the perfect spot. It's knowing the perfect moment to stop. Because in cat psychology, timing is everything. And if you think that's subtle, what happens next is even harder to notice. Because sometimes, your cat was already telling you to stop long before you ever touched them. Let's break that down. 4. The warnings you're ignoring before the bite ever happens. Here's the part that changes everything. The bite is almost never the first signal. It's the last one. Long before your cat uses their teeth, they've already tried to communicate with you quietly. A slight tail flick, ears turning sideways, not flat, just angled. A pause in movement that feels off, even a subtle shift in breathing. These aren't random behaviors, they're calibrated warning signals. But easy to miss because they don't look dramatic. Your cat doesn't growl, they don't bark, they don't announce discomfort the way humans expect. Instead, they whisper. And when those whispers are ignored, they escalate. The tail flick becomes sharper, the body stiffens, the pupils widen, and then bite. Not out of anger, but because every softer signal failed. And this is where most owners unintentionally damage trust. Because from the cat's perspective, they did communicate. You just didn't understand the language. So the real shift isn't stopping the bite. It's learning to see the moment before the bite becomes necessary. If you've ever missed these signs and thought your cat just snapped, type 4 inches the comments, because this is exactly where most people get it wrong. And if you want to start catching these signals before they escalate, make sure you're subscribed, because once you see them, you'll never look at your cat the same way again. Now, let's take this one step deeper, because sometimes your cat isn't just reacting, they're actually trying to teach you something. 5. The bite is feedback, not rejection. What if your cat isn't turning on you, but actually responding to you? Because when you step back and look at the pattern, something becomes clear. The bite is rarely random. It's consistent, predictable, structured. It happens after a certain number of strokes, in specific situations, at very precise moments. That's not aggression, that's feedback. Your cat is essentially saying, "That was good, now it's too much. I liked that, but not anymore. Stay within this boundary." And over time, your cat expects you to learn that boundary. If you stop right before the bite, something interesting happens. Your cat doesn't escalate. They stay relaxed. They remain close. They may even come back for more interaction later. Because now, from their perspective, you're predictable, you're safe. But if you repeatedly ignore that limit, if every interaction ends with them needing to bite to make you stop, then the pattern changes. They begin to anticipate the discomfort. They become more reactive, faster. The threshold gets shorter, not because they trust you less emotionally, but because they trust you less behaviorally. So the goal isn't to eliminate biting entirely, it's to understand what the bite is trying to replace. Because once you start stopping before your cat has to escalate, you're no longer being corrected by your cat. You're actually communicating with them. And that's where the relationship shifts from confusion to clarity to trust.